Okay, we should be live here with Master Heise. I'm going to wait a minute or two to see if anybody hops on and share this out, verify it a couple pages. So if you are on already, bear with us for a minute or two before we get started. There's a couple people out there already.
Awesome.
Here. All right, and for anyone who is watching, if you have questions for Master Heise, I will be monitoring the comments. I know a lot of people, after it gets started, kind of hop in a little late, but you guys can always go back and watch. Again, they will be recorded. They'll be on the Region 22 Facebook page and in the Meet the Masters page set up by Master Settianto. So proud to be live here with Master Martha Heise. I've known Master Heise for quite a while now through a lot of various things. She's a good friend from Rising Phoenix, Tang Soo Do, and Region 8 in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. So before we officially get started, if you want to say hi to everybody, Master Heise.
Hello, everybody. And I'm really excited. Like many of the people Master Jorgensen has interviewed, I'm a pretty reserved person. So just like a lot of here at Master Jorgensen makes it so much nicer. So thank you, sir, for the opportunity to talk with you today.
Thank you. So there are a few people on. Like I said, we'll get some people in there. Barry Richardson says hello, ma'am. We got some different people from some different areas watching. So we'll start the way we start all these interviews, and I'll just ask Master Heise to kind of tell her background story into martial arts, how and why she got interested in martial arts and involved in the World Tang Soo Do Association.
Cool. So when I was at the University of Scranton, I was studying biology there, and we had mandatory gym classes. So after weightlifting was done and athletic training was done, I was looking for something that I would enjoy because badminton and tennis was not my thing. And at the time, I lived in the hill section. And those that are from the area would know that there's awesome spots in the hill section, which are not affordable by college students. And then there's other spots where I was living where you didn't leave until it was light and you didn't leave after dark. So I saw that there was a women's self-defense course that was offered, and come to find out it was from Samdan and Tang Soo Do that studied under Master Marianne Walsh. And although it was a self-defense for women, she really taught us Tang Soo Do. So I started with 2 semesters there at the U in 91 and really loved it. But when I went to grad school at Lehigh, the last thing on my mind was doing something besides my grad program. So although I found out later that Master Gallagher had a studio just miles from where I was, I didn't start back up with Tang Soo Do until I came to the Poconos. And that was in the winter of like 96, 97. And I went into the post office. I was living close by, and there was this Enter the Mysterious World poster that was around back in the 80s and 90s. And I thought, wow, that sounds like it's really close. And that sounds kind of familiar. So I started with Satellite School of Pocono Tang Soo Do that was led by Mr. TJ Sakula and Elaine Sakula at a local church. And so winter of 97, I started officially with the World Tang Soo Do.
Excellent. So I know you said you started with Mr. Sakula, but I know you've been involved with some other masters over the years, particularly with Master Richards and Master Randy Keener. Do you have any memories of either of those masters or your time in Pocono Tang Soo Do, or story or event you could share?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I started with Mr. Sakula, and his studio, his club was a satellite of Master Richards' Pocono Tang Soo Do. At that point, PR, as we lovingly call him, had studios in a number of different places at churches and different things. And so we, as I got closer to black belt, would train regularly with Master Richards. I was single at the time. I was new to the Poconos. As some of you know, I am not necessarily a very extroverted person. So I wanted an opportunity to get to meet people and do things in the area. So I was doing classes Mondays and Thursdays, 2 hours a week with Mr. Sakula. And right around my first test, I said, how can I do more of this? And he said, well, let me see. So he talked to Sabanim, Master Keener, and he said, sure, bring her over when you come, because Mr. Sakula was still continuing his training with Master Richards and Master Keener. And so I was allowed to initially follow Mr. Sakula over every Tuesday, and then I was eventually granted permission to go on my own. So I was training 4 days a week, 5 when I could, and just absolutely loved it. One of my cool memories with Master Richards, he, of course, is a Lutheran minister, but the flip side of it is he is crazy intense into fitness, into Tang Soo Do. For years, we heard stories about he would get up and he would train for hours in his garage or in his gym, whatever he had set up. And he was crazy dedicated, going to train with Grandmaster Shin or whomever was instructing at World Headquarters at the time. And he would come back and share it with us. Now, Master Richards is hardcore to the end, but has a big heart. You don't always see that right away, but so in wanting to share his love of Tang Soo Do with us, he would set up black belt nights once a month for like 3 hours a night or so in a business meeting. And then periodically he would set up retreats. So again, because he was a minister, we had the facilities. Sometimes we'd go other places, but a lot of times we would just bring a covered dish, bring our sleeping bag and all that kind of stuff. And we would train all Friday night and settle down for sleep. And then sometimes you would hear this clamoring and you'd have to wake up and like all of a sudden get yourself together and like go back to the dojang and train, and like just to be able to have an experience that was different. And then we had breaking for a breakfast. So you got lined up, grabbed a board, and you'd have to break successfully in order to get in line for the pancakes or the sausage or whatever else that we had prepared for breakfast. And then we'd train indoors and out again. So those retreats and those knife throwing behind the church where the church ladies might not see us, those were like the awesome memories with Master Richards. The one that was not so comfortable was, and I'll tell about Master Keener in a second, but at one point, Master Keener and his wife moved to Region 7 to start a school and start a new life there. And so I was coming to Master Richards after my classes to prepare for my Samdan test. And there's some other folks there, and we were practicing one steps and grabs. And he said, Martha, would you really move that way? I think it was like either 9 choke or 10 choke or something like that. Would you really move that way? And I'm like, I think so, sir. Right? So the ego hits you and you're like, oh crap, I'm an Edon and I'm not even doing my 1 steps right, or I'm not. And for those of you who've not been close to Master Richards, sorry, sir, he has the hands of a bear, right? They are ginormous. He gets his arm around my neck, grabbing me, and he goes, now, how would you get out now? Well, talk about like, holy crud, you go into that mode of like, this gotta work. Well, it shifted my mindset immediately to, you gotta do it right every time. You know, you got the little kid choking you, you got the big guy choking you, you just gotta do your stuff right all the time. But yeah, there was some awesome memories. He scared the life out of me for years, but in doing so, really fostered in me a desire to be better all the time. But Sabanim, Master Keener, was so different, even having gone through that, and in no way was wimpy, and in no way was soft. Although he was soft-spoken, and for years Nobody could pronounce his name. He worked behind the scenes and did his thing. And I think I really connected with that because I didn't need to be out, you know, in the highlight. But I was getting ready for my black belt test. And at that point, we typically waited about a year to go, you know, Chodenbo, give or take, sometimes more. And in the midst of me being a Chodenbo, it was a heck of a year. Lost my friend the day before I tested for Chodenbo, had my appendix rupture partway through my training. And in the whole midst of that, I needed work because I was out of the dojang for a while. And what I didn't realize until afterwards was, or at least as we were part of the process, he was getting ready to test for master. And so he kindly came to me and said, hey, can we get together and work on our one steps and that kind of thing? And we would get together every week for quite a while. And he would help me work on my skills and that kind of thing. And in the end, I was helping him just as being a partner for his prep for master. And being able to travel to see him promoted and just see the culmination of all that. He just had the biggest heart. And I remember littlest dojang we had, he would take that 20 by 24 space. And we were mostly adults at that point, a handful of, as I say, nose picking children. Sorry, there's just a couple that were interesting, but he would just come back and find interesting ways to keep us sweating and keep us looking at those 2 hours in a space that really couldn't hold us. So yeah, I have a lot of awesome memories training at Pocono Tang Soo Do and Keener's martial art. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So moving beyond, this theme's come up with a lot of the masters, you know, as we were coming up through the ranks, whether you wanted to or not, if you were going to move up to that master rank, you had to start a school. So Master Heise is the owner of Rising Phoenix Tang Soo Do. So if you can talk a little bit about how Rising Phoenix started and kind of what it is today.
Sure, thanks. So Master Keener always thought that it was important to get us all involved. And so for many of us at Keener's Martial Arts, we had a role in the dojang, like many schools. And probably around red belt or so, a handful of us officially had teaching duties. We would help out with dragons. We might lead a Tai Chi class. We might lead a fitness class, whatever the case may be. And when I got to about Edon level, Master Keener came to us over the summer, called all the black belts together, and he said, my wife and I want to start a new life together, leave the area, and I'm going to give you guys some time to talk about what you want to do. If anybody wants to take over the school, then please come and talk to me. So a bunch of us talked, and the long and short of it is nobody wanted the business. Nobody wanted the school. People wanted to be involved, but nobody specifically wanted to take over. And to be frank, I was not quite the most junior member, but I was definitely not the most senior member. So there were 4 of us who got together and started talking about things and noodling things out. And I went to Sabanim and said, sir, if there's nobody else more senior who wants it, I'd like to do it. And so April 1st, 2003, Rising Phoenix, at that point, Martial Arts Academy was born. And Master Fernandez, Miss Sawford, Mr. Michael Keener and I had teaching duties within the studio. And there we were. And it has been an interesting ride. And the Rising Phoenix name has definitely followed us through the whole process. And I'll only speak to me, especially for me, because I think it's been one of those, when I first took over the school, my perspective was wanting to maintain what Sabanim had built. Good, bad, or indifferent, but that's where I was. And I was an Edon. I had a new job. Honestly, 6 months to a year before I took over the studio, I was regularly going to Sabanim and saying, so I can't get here in time. I can't get out of work, blah, blah, blah. And be like, Martha, if you get here at 6:15, that's fine. If you get here at 6:30, that's fine. Just get here, warm up, and get into class. And so I joke with my students, like literally less than a year before I became a studio owner, I almost quit Tang Soo Do. And talk about a 180. But long story short, over the years, through interaction with a lot of awesome people and my own personal growth, I found that there was nothing I could do to maintain Sabanim's legacy. That was his legacy. That was his job. And I needed to create a studio that connected with me. And that really sounds selfish, but it's not selfish, because at the end of the day, it had to reflect my values and my interest in connecting with people and helping people to learn Tang Soo Do and use that as a vehicle for their own personal growth and for their own enrichment. And so that's where we are today. We have shifted a couple different places over the years. People have come and gone like at other studios. And as you mentioned, I mean, the whole concept of the Phoenix has really rung true. So now we're in Stroudsburg, which is just a stone's throw from where we were, but we have an awesome studio. It is not huge in comparison to a lot in Region 8, but I have to say we have the biggest heart. My folks are willing to show up before anything starts, leave well after everything ends, and do as much in front or behind the camera as is requested to get the job done. And I am so grateful that those are the people I have.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Something that I haven't talked to you about prior to going live, but something Master Ricky Jorgensen actually asked me about. And anybody that has seen Master Heise's uniforms and students and t-shirts, the logo always kind of pops out. Everybody's like, that is such a cool logo. So something I haven't asked other masters about necessarily, but can you talk a little bit about how that came about and maybe meaning behind the logo to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have to post afterwards the original logo. So, and you know me well enough, sir, to know this this thread. When we first started, the four of us that got together had a very democratic way of coming up with a logo. I actually sat out on Alma's couch in the waiting area and said, do you like this or this or da da da? So it initially was red and blue umyang, and in one section was a tiger for Sabanim, because on his logo was a tiger. And so I wanted to show that connection to him. And then on the other side was a phoenix-ish bird rising above. And so that was our initial logo for a couple years. And I think once I got over the fact that I needed to have my own piece, I worked with another artist and came up with this. And to me, this is much more simple, and it just very clearly shows a very strong but open phoenix, which is what I wanted to represent who we were. You know, very open, willing to have a diverse group in our midst, but rising.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So, no, and Master Heise is part of Region 8, but I'm also here representing Region 22. And Master Heise has had some strong connections to Region 22, whether that's through, I know she has some family that's trained at River Valley Tang Soo Do under Master Homcheck, and a lot of friends who have trained at Penn State martial arts over the years. So as a representative of Region 22, I have to ask, do you have any memories or experiences with any of the instructors or events at Region 22 that you would share with the group?
Many. I feel like this is going to probably get me in trouble somewhere, but I feel like I am a member of both regions. And I think we all are in a way, right? We're really part of a larger organization, and we connect with people from all over the world. So when we go to a region somewhere else, we feel just as welcomed and just as respected and connected with as in our home region. But Miss Sawford, Kira Sawford, was a senior of mine and a really dear friend as I was training with Keener's Martial Arts. And she had trained initially with Miss Kemper and with Master K at Penn State Martial Arts Group before she moved to the Poconos. And as I mentioned, real quiet person, right? So at tournaments, I'd show up, I'd do my stuff, and I was not usually the one that was partying afterwards, at least not in a large party. Miss Sawford was always connected with what was going on. Not that she wasn't a quiet person as well, but I remember being introduced into Penn State martial arts and that through there. So I have to say I have countless memories of Region 22 folks and stuff. Mr. Schwartz and I spent time together. It was when I had first cut my hair and Mr. Schwartz still had long hair. And he came to my studio for a while, teaching classes, sharing with my students before he opened New York City Tang Soo Do. And the joke was, sir, yes, he's got the long hair. I had the short hair, but so many memories with he and Master Donaldson, who really got me connected with so many things, especially security. And I know you mentioned about that when we were talking in preparation for this, but I have one really poignant memory. I enjoyed training at Warriors Path events, whether it was Silk and Steel or the Connecting the Concepts or whatever. What I really connected with is how all of us were different, and Master K and Master Homecheck and yourself and the other instructors who were there really had a way of connecting to each of us in a way that helped us get the material, click into the concepts, and stay engaged. And I say to my students now, I am not the technician that some of my peers are. I look at the Aaron Watsons and the Angel Salonas and the Jeff Setiantos and all these folks that are in my my training group, and they just are amazing. And so many other people I haven't mentioned. Believe me, there are countless. And that's not me. I don't count myself as an amazing technician, although let me tell you, I try as hard as I can. But I say to my students, the reason that I am decent is I just kept going, you know? And there was a time when I was at the Path and I had this horrible headache and I couldn't process anything. And Mr. Augustino took me downstairs and just helped me process whatever the heck was going on and really connect. And yeah, that was just a really meaningful experience. I could go on for days about, I will share this one. We had some really interesting experiences working security. Let me tell you, did that open my eyes to so many opportunities. And I am grateful every moment that I had a chance to serve in that capacity. But we were at Region 8 at one of the adult black belt clinics. And at that point, Grandmaster Shin used to stay slightly off campus or off, from the dorms in a separate space. And often Master Vaughn, Master White, Master K, senior masters doing security stayed with him or near him in that space. And at that point, I was working with Mr. Schwartz and Master Donaldson on quantum security. And we had come in the van to pick him up to head somewhere. We're always very polite about staying out of the way or on his porch or whatever. And we were in the kitchen because he was finishing up getting ready. And Master Donaldson, those who are listening don't know him, he is an awesome storyteller, again, which I am not. But he at the drop of a hat can tell a pertinent, relevant, poignant story, whatever. And so I was talking with Master K and Master White as we were waiting there. And I was listening to Master Donaldson tell his stories. And I just commented like, I just don't have stories like that. And the two of them looked at each other. And I think it was Master K said, I got a plan for you, Martha. So here's what we're going to do. Now, if you'd ever ridden in the Tang Soo Do van, you realize that there was like 2 seats, maybe a jump seat. And other than that, it was just a metal floor. And you just hang on for dear life if you were not the primary person driving or Grandmaster Shin. So he's like, when we get going a little over 35, what I'm going to have you do is open the door suddenly and just see what happens. He goes, either you're going to roll out, somebody's going to push us out, one of those things are going to happen, and then you will have a story. And said it with like the straightest face, and Master White's just nodding like, yeah, that sounds like a good one. But yeah, so many awesome stories. I'm happy every year that Master Susan Strum deals with my snoring and craziness and stays with me at Master's Clinic, and we have plenty of good stories as well.
All right, great. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. So mentioned security a little bit. One of the ways I got to know Master Heise better was from working on security teams together at the World Championships specifically. If you could talk a little bit about, how you got involved in security team in general, and maybe another story directly related to security. There's a couple I could tell at Worlds, but not about me, so I'll leave it to Master Heise.
You would probably tell that one better, sir. So as I mentioned, there was a lot of times that Master Richards, Master Keener, and those of us who were in that group supported events in the area. And oftentimes we were on transportation and logistics and that kind of thing for events in the Poconos. And at one point there were 2 black belt camps for kids. And one of them was up here in the Poconos at a camp. And so I typically did check-in and parking and random stuff like that, running for food for Grandmaster and stuff. And at one time, Master Donaldson ran up to me and he said, ma'am, your school's closed, right? Yes, sir. We need flags. Yes, sir. And I just went to the school, grabbed my flags, brought them back. We got them set up. He was working with Leanne at that point. Leanne and he were doing security at camp, and something happened and they didn't have the flags they were supposed to. And as anybody who's worked security, at least in those days, know, security was often not so much security as it was making sure everything looked good, whatever that took. So that was one of those pieces. And I don't know exactly how it happened to this day, but soon after that, I showed up for an event and I was told, where's your uniform? What uniform? Well, you're on the security team now. Oh, okay. What do I do? Well, if you're at this event or this event, show up in your blues. If you're in this event or this event, we'll get you a shirt, and this is what you do. Okay. And at that point, I started training with Master Donaldson and Mr. Schwartz on how to do primary detail with Quantum for local events. And then at Worlds, I got to tour through pretty much every position to understand how the doors worked and the floor and spectators and all that kind of good stuff. So it was an awesome opportunity for somebody who doesn't want to be in the limelight to serve in a way that helps keep things going. It was great. So I thank Master Merrill and Master Donaldson and everybody who helped to get me connected, and yourself, sir, for keeping me mildly toned down when I was working security. I think the hair didn't help. A lot of people were very intimidated by apparently my intense face. I think I'm a pretty nice lady, but
Yes, ma'am. I've always gotten along very well with Master Heise. She's a very nice lady. But I'll segue a little bit with the hair. We're not seeing it right now, but anyone who's known Master Heise over the years knows that she's known for what some people would consider some unusual hair colors, dyeing bright red or green or blue, depending on the situation, or pink. So if there's a story behind that, could you kind of share how that came about and what that means to you, or if it means anything particular? I don't know, but
sure. Well, it is eggplant. It's hard to see in the light, but it is self-induced, as is the haircut. I got tired of having long hair. When I was first in the Poconos and first training, I had very long hair. A handful of people remember me that way. And as I shifted into a store lab, I worked in a vaccine company. I did mid-level research, right? Not basic research, but research in a molecular biology lab. And so your hair always had to be up, glasses were on. It was a horrible thing, but you do what you can. Shifted into a different role, and I still found myself, because of Tang Soo Do, pulling my hair up into a way. And I'm like, well, you know what? If I'm going to pull my hair up, I may as well just cut it off. And I took a picture of Halle Berry to my beautician. Of course, I look so much like Halle Berry, but I took this to my beautician, who is a pistol. And she goes, this is not you. And I said, yeah, but can I get close to that? And after some discussion and her telling me that my head looked like a light bulb, and once it was off, it wasn't coming back, I said, well, then let's do something fun with it. So it was right before New Year's. And so she dyed the bulk of my hair a deeper, like brown, because my hair is naturally dark brown when it's not white. And she did like the heat miser across the front and back, which was awesome. And that started it. And I went into work, and my boss was like, oh my God, this is great. Can I take pictures for my wife? And he's taking pictures, and his boss comes in and says, oh, what did you do with your hair? Well, I guess you have to be courageous somewhere. So, yeah. So I was in this very conservative IT group, and my way of expressing creativity, because I love art, I love dance and music and stuff, was to play with the color. I mean, I mostly only did the top for a while, because to be honest, I'm not a girly girl. I didn't have 3 hours to sit and watch them do my hair. So I would play with the colors. And you would likely know this, sir, and some folks maybe watching might. I'm a squirrel. They're bright objects. They attract my attention. So keeping it the same color was hard for me. So, every couple months I'd change it up. Benji was willing to take me through the rainbow. So that's what it is. But as I get older, I have less patience for sitting and having my hair bleached and all that other kind of good stuff. So it's been a version of eggplants or whatever for quite a while.
Master Russo is in capital letters and multiple explanation points says purple. So is there a story there? Maybe not one you want to share right now.
I don't know, unless you, are we talking about everybody doing that for master's clinic? There was talk that since a number of us lately have been doing purple-ish hair, Miss Francis and Master Setianto, myself, I don't know if there's others, but there was talk of some other people, including some of the folks you've interviewed recently, doing purple for the 2020 Masters Clinic. So that didn't come together, but there had been conversations of a mass purple invasion.
Fair enough. Master Russo just says, no, it's just her favorite color and it looks good on you. At any rate, there's a question over Facebook that I will ask. That's from Ollie Williams. A question for Master Heise. How would you describe the methods that work best for you when connecting to students? What is your specific strength?
Wow.
So, nothing difficult or anything.
No. I like to listen. I like to observe. If all I have is a clinic, I just like to connect with somebody. I think the biggest thing is listen and watch. Pick up on how they're interacting, if they're engaging or not, and then go with that. I do have a pretty strong personality, but I try in this situation when I'm an instructor to not force me on somebody else. I'm a relatively small person, and I've learned over the years that for me, finesse works better with a dose of strength. And so I like to let their stuff shine. I am tough love sometimes. I have been known to say I'm giving up the word suck for Lent. I'm not rude to my students. I really very much respect them, but I will say, boy, that front stand sucks. Let's see how we could fix it. So, and you got to ask Matt Summers. I don't always have people come and visit, but Mr. Summers, since he's been working in New Jersey area, has visited my studio. And I think he was shocked to find that I have a bit of a sense of humor. So I try to use a bit of humor, but mostly listen and observe to find ways to get them to engage and to click with whatever we're working on.
Thank you, ma'am. So moving on, something I've been asking a lot of different instructors, outside of Tang Soo Do, are there any special interests that you have, maybe something somebody doesn't know about you that you'd like to share with the group?
I love music and dance. My sister and I love doing things together. She is now married with little kids, and so we don't get to do as much as we used to, but we used to love going to see musicals, dance performances, etc. And I just love to move. I think that's one of the reasons that I love Tang Soo Do so much, is that it's active. As a child, as a kid, I played the piano. I had to play the piano. And I also played the violin, but we didn't have like multiple activities going on at any one point. So I did a little bit of sports, but not a lot. So I love movement. And so any opportunity I have to dance, I'm not saying I'm talented or good, but I love it. Or music, absolutely love. And secondarily, anything outside. I love being in nature. Winter's okay. As much as Bubba is an awesome skier and loves it, I have yet to ski with him in all the time I've spent with him. But other than that, I love being outside. And so gardening is something that I did with my grandparents and my dad. And I don't usually get an opportunity to do that much, but when I can get my hands dirty, that's also awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So So going into some other interests and areas professionally, notice from looking into your website and some things, in addition to teaching Tang Soo Do, Master Heise also offers MFR, which is myofascial release therapy, and Reiki sessions. So can you talk a little bit for the people that don't know kind of what those things are and how you got involved in doing that?
Sure. I'm going to do my squirrel for a moment. So I mentioned earlier that I had a surprise appendectomy when I was at Chonambo. So training on a Monday night, not feeling so great. Thought it was food poisoning from a picnic wedding. And the next day, I was driving myself to the emergency room and telling Sabanim, I don't think I'll be in class. They haven't come to see me yet. And 5 hours later, my appendix was out. So I wasn't able to train for a while. I got involved in Qigong. And it was through a local TCM master and such, and really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And then once World Qigong started doing seminars and such, traveling for that. So that piece informed some of my desire to look at the health and energetic perspectives of things. And I connected with a couple interesting folks from the kind of metaphysical, energetic perspective. And one of them taught Reiki classes. And I'd had a bad taste in my mouth from a previous presentation, but this lady was totally different. So I took some Reiki classes from her, learned how to be a master instructor, and found it for many people to be a beneficial way to relax and to reconnect. I don't do as much Reiki as I did before, but myofascial release right around 2005. One of my students, actually, you know him, Adam Wells. He was one of my students.
Yes.
Yeah. Adam was a teenager at that point, bopping around, very energetic. And his mom said to me, I need to connect you with this lady. I think you guys will get along really well. And so she did. And this woman is an excellent MFR therapist. And I was really intrigued by the work. And I said to her, what's this all about? So she came and did a presentation for the studio, teaching people how to stretch and do different things to help them do their Tang Soo Do better. And I thought, this is awesome, right? So long story short, my personality, like I said, I'm a bit squirrely. I had gone to a Qigong clinic in Myrtle Beach, one of the early Qigong clinics, and Grandmaster had got up and spoke at the end of this. And I turned to my sister who came with me to this clinic, and I said, I think I'm putting my notice in next week. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I think I'm done with this corporate work. I need to shift gears. And I went back and I gave my notice and I left corporate work and I shifted gears. And I talked to this woman and said, what do I need to do to be able to do this work? And she kindly let me shadow her for a while. I went to massage school because I have enough degrees. I didn't really want to become a nurse or a doctor, which would have taken me X amount of time. No disrespect for them. I just spent enough time in school and I did not have the patience to do that again. And I also didn't want to take away from the studio. And for me, this was a way to balance that. I heard Master Watson's interview the other day, and she was talking about both her love for medicine and her love for Tang Soo Do, and she just saw both as being important. And I'm in the same boat. I have over the years struggled with, well, if I did more of this, maybe that would be more successful than if I did both. But this works together. So what is it? How does it work? Myofascial release isn't new. Many people know it as the specific techniques people do, maybe Graston type stuff where people will use a tool to loosen up the soft tissue between your skin and your bones and stuff. some people may think of it as the elbow running down your calf when you have a tight calf muscle and stuff. And that's the very, the mobilization, the very gross level of it. But PT about 50 years ago put together an approach that had a little bit longer lasting effect. Without going into a crazy amount of detail, again, like Sabanim, tuning into him and his energy, I really tuned into John, and it clicked. So myofascial release is a form of manual therapy that works on the soft tissues of the body. And because in essence, it goes from cell to cell, muscle to bone, it's really continuous. And so I can be working on your wrist and you might go, Martha, I feel that in my ribs. What, you know, and I don't know why, but who knows, maybe you had pneumonia this year, right? Maybe sometime you broke a rib and there's scar tissue there, and my connecting in here has an impact somewhere else. And so for me, myofascial release is an awesome way, like Tang Soo Do, to help people be a better version of themselves. And for me, it has been an awesome way to keep me as healthy as I can, and personal growth, just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're getting to a point now where, again, if you have questions for Master Heise, there's about 15 people out there or so. So there's a group out there. If you have questions for Master Heise, throw them in the comments. I will get them to her. I'll continue to ask my own group of questions here. But if you do have questions for Master Heise, please put them out there. So another thing I've been asking a lot of people is, over the years, can you remember any specific challenges presented to you? I know you talked earlier about, right before you started a studio, the possibility that you almost left Tang Soo Do. You can talk about that more in detail, or something else if you have something. But I'm talking specifically about something that may have slowed or kind of blocked your path in training, and kind of how you overcame that, whether physical, emotional, whatever influence that caused that challenge.
So in addition to that shift with my job that really impacted my feeling like I could get to train as much as I did, there was a period of time, as there is likely, when my studio was transitioning. So where we were was changing, who was a part of it was changing, and it shifted my level of confidence in myself and whatever. I know that we as instructors, we as studio owners, evolve and change. I've had students that have come back who were students of mine at that time, and they are surprised that things are different. And I say, well, you're different. I'm different. The studio is different. We change. But yeah, there was definitely a period of time where I can say a bit of my confidence in myself was shook. But it's not unlike a broken pot, right? If you have a pot with plants in it, it's a little bit cracked, it's okay, because then the water can come in, then there can be a little bit more airflow, and your plant can grow, and it doesn't get moldy and it doesn't get funky. And I think that shakeup, looking back, not at the time, but looking back, was really beneficial for me, because if everything was smelling like roses from the moment we transitioned the studio to now, what kind of growth, right? What would I have to share with my students? And I'm not saying that I still don't have more growth to go. I think life is an eternal journey of lessons and opportunities to share with each other. So I am really grateful during that time for a lot of people who sometimes got in my face and challenged me to see myself for who I was, challenged me to just get over myself, and other folks who were supportive. Some folks probably remember Master Leon from the Kingston, Wilkes-Barre area. he very graciously, when Master Keener moved south, said, you know, I don't have a studio. I've been kind of itinerant helping people out. I want to go and help Martha and her students continue to transition and grow. And he was one of those folks that really, really was there to set a good example and to help me maintain my training and learn how to help my students grow. Master Homechek was another person who really challenged me to be better, to pay it forward. Master Robinson has countless times both been supportive and looked me in the eye and said, like, get out of your way, you know, make your choice, get it done, right? And there's a lot of other folks who over the years have really been there to like help me shift. So yeah, I think that was definitely one of those times where I can't say I would have quit, because I'm pretty darn stubborn. If you tell me to go left very forcibly, I will go right 359 degrees before I will go left. Sometimes I'm learning to be a little bit more flexible, but yeah.
Thank you. I just think it's important for people to realize a lot of times people look at the masters and just like, oh, these guys are all martial arts all the time, their whole life, 100%. And a lot of that, to a certain degree, is true, but you also need to realize that, yeah, we've had our times and our difficult times over the years too. So anybody that's going through that, you know, can relate back. You can get through, and you can keep pushing and get to that level as well. So you talked a little bit about that idea of change. Something else I've been asking everybody to think on a little bit is, how have martial arts in general and maybe the association itself changed since you've started training, either in a positive or potentially a negative way? I think it's okay sometimes to share what we think is the negatives, because we make them better. It's also great to share the positives. So either or both is fine.
I think in a positive perspective, World Tang Soo Do in a large way has continued to evolve. Grandmaster Shin set a vision for us that was abundantly clear in his mind, and through his charismatic and passion, his charismatic personality and his passion for Tang Soo Do, that came out through the rest of us. And as we moved away from people who had that experience, Grandmaster Baldwin and Grandmaster Strong and senior masters have really helped us to continue to evolve. And so I think that's a real positive. We have, in many cases, much more organization than we used to. Do we have room to grow? Sure, absolutely. But there's a strength in our connection. If you look at how we all rose independently and collectively to this challenge of COVID-19 and how to work with it in this environment, it really speaks to the brotherhood and sisterhood of our organization, and how strong it is amidst the fact that we're all independent studios. We have countless people coming together and saying, hey, I thought of this, what, here, you can have it, or what are we going to do about that? So that's awesome. I think something, I don't know if I see it as a negative or as an opportunity, but when I first was training, my initial instructors were Master Keener and Mr. Schooler, were very intent on protocol and etiquette. Not to the point that they were lording over or anything like that, but it was very important for them to share appropriate behavior and interaction and such. And I had a big brother of Tang Soo Do Master Lickman, who kind of gave me the Cliff Notes version of a lot of that stuff so that I would learn it without some of the pain experiences that maybe he did. And I think sometimes today, and I hate to be the person who says like, well, our society's different. Well, it's always different. It's continually changing. But I think because we've moved from generations that were used to connecting face to face, shaking hands, talking to somebody, looking at their eye, to generations which are used to using a lot of virtual materials. Things change. And so trying to express to young or old the importance of a bow, why I'm not going to drag my belt across the floor, why I'm not going to play in my dobok while I wait for mommy to get the car out, little things like that. Why I wear my Navy suit in July in 80-degree weather, because it's so practical, right? You know, I mean, right? I mean, those are the kind of things that I think, I have to say, as a white belt, I didn't get why I should say to the 12-year-old Edon, yes, ma'am. That was tough, but I did it because I respected her rank and I understood that. But I think there's a little bit different way that we go about doing this. And I had talked with Master Westrod one time about how we evolve as instructors to still share the same lessons and the same traditions, but in a way that connects with our students now. You know, we don't say they're wrong and slap their hand. What we have to do is help to continue to share what's most important. You know, so I think that's something that's changed, but it's something that we need to change. We always need to be evolving.
Just a couple of comments and questions. Throw some comments out first from Sean Campbell. No question, but thanks for letting your hair down, pun intended, interviews and the candor. From Master UTech, Master Heise is very respected, and now I know why. Thank you for putting yourself out there.
Thank you.
Question from Master Aaron Watson. What is one martial arts goal you want to achieve within the next 5 years?
Oh, wow. I want to improve. It's kind of twofold. I want to improve on my ability to share what I know where I am. I love Tang Soo Do. As I said before, I don't count myself as a technician who has the sidekick to do, right? But I endeavor to improve at how I do things so that I can share, like Master Utek said, very honestly, who I am and what I have to share. So I want to improve my confidence level in my skills, which means I need to practice more. And secondly, I need to ask for more opportunities to share. I love teaching, but oftentimes I don't, because I think I really don't do anything special. I am not the knife guy. I am not the big guy. I'm not the fast girl. I guess I'm the hair girl, but I don't know that I have a thing. And so that sometimes has held me back. So I don't know if that answers Master Watson's question, but I want to get better. I definitely have room to improve my own skill, and I want to get better at asking for opportunities to share.
Yes, ma'am. So for the record, again, we're all our own worst critics, but I've always respected Master Heise for her ability and her technique. And I think a lot of people would argue with you when you say you don't have that. So
Thank you. I stood behind Master Ricky Jorgensen for many years and watched the precision of her stuff as we would do Basai for 45 times, and stood next to a lot of people who I really look up to. But thank you for that. That's very nice.
I know you've had the opportunity with security to work with a lot of different people, some interaction with the grandmasters. So something that as masters, I think we need to share is whether you have any specific memories or stories to share of some of the grandmasters that have passed, Grandmaster Shin, Grandmaster Bodwin, anything you can share about that experience for the people that, you know, a lot of people out there in our association today never even knew Grandmaster Shin, which is hard for us to fathom. And now it'll be another generation that didn't get to know Grandmaster Bodwin. So either or both is again fine. I know that's a tough one to sometimes get through. But.
Yeah, especially now that I'm in this place, but I will do best. Ms. Gordon Mazer, I will not cry today. I had so many wonderful experiences with Grandmaster Shin. I've sometimes said when the anniversary of the association or his passing or whatever comes up, and people are posting these wonderful pictures of themselves of Grandmaster, most of my pictures of Grandmaster are on my heart, because more often than not, I was standing 5 feet away from him when all these pictures were happening. And I had the real honor to just be observing his strong character, his really giving nature, and his love for Tang Soo Do and this association. He just, you know, maybe too, as he mentioned and as his family mentioned later, you know, maybe there was things they sacrificed and there was things that made him tired and such, but he always had a moment. And if he didn't, he would let you know. When I worked with him at kids camp, it was such an awesome opportunity. Not that he was less formal or more, but I mean, you're at this filthy camp with, you know, bugs and all sorts of stuff. And by filthy, what I mean is there was a cabin that they would let our grandmaster and some other grandmaster from another organization stay in. And for the rest of the year, it was closed down. So security, we would arrive 4 to 5 hours early, clean the entire cabin so that Master Vaughn or whomever was staying there and Kwon Janim would have a mildly clean cabin. This one time I was working with a colleague who was not our typical security person, but he was available and promised he would behave. And for those who've worked security with Kwon Janim, whether it be Kwon Janim, Bodwin, or whatever, part of being in that role was to be polite and listen. And as Master Merrill said the other day, you didn't really speak unless you were spoken to, unless you felt that it was okay. Well, this was not the person. So he had come in with a lot of warnings. And we were sitting after dinner one evening before he adjourned, and he was watching TV with Master Vaughn, and this other gentleman and I were sitting a little bit off, and this commercial came up with Chuck Norris. It was for one of those machines that he was advertising for. And he said, "Oh, Chuck." And Master Vaughn kind of chuckled, and Grandmaster went on to just kind of nod his head. And you knew something was going on in here, but I would not have asked the question. Jim, on the other hand, Jim asked the question. And Kwon Janim politely said some things and just was very, very appropriate. You know, he didn't cut him down. He didn't anything. He just said, "Oh, he made different choices in life and, you know, different from me, but he good martial artist and, you know, whatever. And there were so many times where we had like those quiet times. One of my most favorite, when I had two little students who were like little dragon, tiny tigers, and their dad was a landscaper, groundskeeper at a local resort. And he was so touched by the experiences kids were having in Tang Soo Do that he designed a garden for Grandmaster, because he was hearing that we were going to have this headquarters. And at this point, we had land in the Lancaster area, but things were still up in the air. So he drew out this plan, and at a black belt test, I think, I gave it to Miss Gonski, and she said, well, I'll share it with Kwanjanim. And she did, but nothing came of it, because at that point, nothing was coming with headquarters. Well, fast forward to the time when we actually had a place and a plan for headquarters in North Carolina. And I think Ms. Gonski at that point had retired. And so I brought it up to the primary for Grandmaster at that point, who was Master Semerad. And I said, sir, I said, I have something I'd like to discuss with Grandmaster if he has a few minutes. This is what it's about. And he said, sure, I'll let him know. And by this point, the parent had become a white belt, because he found Tang Soo Do such a positive thing for his family. And so I brought up the plans again. And after some discussions with ourselves, he started meeting with Jason and I, and the conversation. So Jason puts all this stuff out, and we can do this and we can do this. And oh, no grass roof. Looks nice. I can't get lawnmower up there. Okay. Jason crossed off grass roof. And pond, beautiful, good idea, no fish. What if there's cat? Then the cat eats the fish. And then, no, he says, we'll have to buy more fish. No. So he went through this, and pardon me, I'm really not trying to make fun of Grandmaster. It was just, when you were there with it, his sheer emotion for it, you know what I mean? Here's Jason, who's like, you know, a GUP student, interacting with him, discussing possibilities, and all he wanted to do was just make something beautiful that Grandmaster would enjoy, because he knew how much Grandmaster enjoyed nature. And so that was just priceless, you know, to be part of those conversations and to be able to help make that connection, to get something together to make he and Mrs. Shin have a nice place, you know, and for all of us, a nice place to go.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I haven't been holding hard and fast to any specific time for these interviews, but yeah, we're a little over that hour mark.
All right.
We've gotten through most of my questions. No apologies necessary. I'm willing to go as long as people are willing to keep going as well, but I want to respect everybody's time. I'm not ready to quite finish, but again, it's just a reminder to anybody out there, if you have any last minute questions, put them up and I'll get them to Master Heise. I have a few more general questions for her, and then I always have kind of an open-ended finish for you to share anything. So yeah, just maybe you said, you know, you feel like you don't have a specific thing. I think a lot of us either have felt or do feel like that as masters and as martial artists in general, but do you have maybe a favorite thing about Tang Soo Do, whether it's a form or a weapon or, you know, a teaching methodology or whatever, but just something about Tang Soo Do that you feel is a favorite thing or something that connects to you?
Yeah, I think a couple different things really connect. For one, the whole concept of body awareness. Myself and helping others know where their body is in space, and then be able to execute their techniques with a level of freedom but control, right? So building to that point. So definitely not as a GUP student. So I love the whole concept of knowing where you are, that whole positional kind of thing, and helping people feel into their body and correct positions, correct, to use their body efficiently. And I'm still working on this, watching Grandmaster Strong talk about efficiency of movement and watching some of the senior masters. We worked with Master Sharp the other day on being intentional and using your center and such. And that's a whole other level I'm working towards, but that's something that really connects with me. I love beating things with sticks and ropes. I said it took me a while to get comfortable with the knife, and I can't say I'm fully comfortable, but I love playing with the stuff that we worked on at the Path. And this was to go back to Master Watson's question earlier. This was some of that stuff that I'm like, well, I can't play with it until I can play with it. And, you know, it turns into a circle, right? But I had the opportunity to work with Master Fattori, which was truly an honor at the last Master's Clinic, because I don't get to work with him that often, right? Senior Master, and he's usually off doing other things. And we took Master K's class together, and I got to work with him. And, you know, it'd be like me working with Master Richards. Usually I'm on the other end of being taught, not being a partner. And that was so much fun. Messing around with knives. So love those weapons. Definitely just scratching the surface on what I do with them. But if you gave me my druthers, yeah, something like that would be in my hands. And forms have always been a place where I can be absolutely exhausted. And if you start beating that drum, you know, all bets are off. I may still be exhausted and look that way too, but I could do forms until I drop. So yeah, so those would be my pieces that I especially connect with.
Yes, ma'am. All right, then, if there are no more questions on Facebook, I just keep throwing it out there in case anybody has anything they want to throw out to Master Heise. I know a lot of people online sometimes feel like they don't have anything to add, but that's part of it too. Is you guys, one of the reasons that we want to share is so that we get information out there that you want to know, not just things that I want to know. So if there are any, I'm going to give you a few more minutes, but I will get into my kind of open-ended closing comments with Master Heise. I mentioned this with Master Panabianco in our interview as well. This can kind of be anything. Do you have any words of wisdom for students, or maybe some new masters coming up through the ranks, or black belts, or it could just be a story you want to share, or a shout out to some other instructors or masters or experience you've had. So it's totally kind of your open-ended closing. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to share that we haven't maybe discussed? And again, maybe to share going forward for students and instructors.
I think this really comes back to almost a little bit about what we were talking about before we went live. This may be a quote from somewhere else, but I remember hearing it first from Master Donaldson. We spoke about Tang Soo Do as being the island of misfit toys. We can have square wheels, we can have tiers, we can be the bill in the box or whatever the case may be. But Tang Soo Do is all about our own individual stuff and our own individual growth. And while it is not an easy road in the sense that it just doesn't automatically come, or at least it didn't for me. It's one of those things that I think Tang Soo Do provides an absolutely awesome vehicle for becoming a better me. So if you're a student, if you're an instructor, if you're a master, right? I feel odd giving advice to masters because I'm just getting started. But my thought is, however we can best connect into our true essence. And I know this sounds wookie, and I'm not talking about any kind of, odd thing. I just truly mean when we get rid of all of our crap and we connect with who we are and know that this is what's important to me, this is what my value system is, then is the only time that we can crack open, right? And grow. Because to be perfectly honest, and I thank so many people in the association who've been part of my journey, and so many people in my MFR world who've been part of my journey. Life is Om and Yang. We don't have the Tao without the Om and the Yang components, right? And so if we're going to be strong, we need to have that piece of vulnerability, right? If we're going to grow, we have to crack open that seed. And so I think if we can be honest with ourselves and connect into ourselves, Tang Soo Do can be an awesome way for us to become a better person and more of ourselves. And it can be an avenue, a vehicle for us to help guide, not push, not teach, not dump our crap into somebody else, right? But we can help other people find themselves and do that for themselves. And yeah, I mean, I think I spent so much of my 30s trying to prove to myself that I was strong and independent. And that's fine. And luckily, I had opportunities to feel my vulnerability. And as I'm going through my 40s, see the benefit of all the Yin and Yang, not just strength and vulnerability, but all the Yin and Yang in life, and connect with service to self as well as service to others.
Wow, thank you. I don't have anything to add beyond that. Just thank Master Heise for your time. Bubba's still there. Thanks for sharing Master Heise with us today. Taking time out on our holiday weekend. And we appreciate it and hope we get to see you and train with you again soon. Don't have anything lined up specifically right now, but we will continue these interviews and continue moving forward. So thanks to everybody out there who's been watching and keeping these going. I'm going to close out the live stream. But again, thank you, Master Heise, and let's all have a great week and keep moving forward and see everybody out on the other side.
Thank you, Master Jorgensen. Happy Memorial Day, Tang Soo.